The illusions of Typhoon. Many historians believe the turning point of World War II was Stalingrad. They are wrong. Their dreams of the Third Reich actually died earlier, right here at the gates of Moscow. On September 1941, Hitler launched Operation Typhoon. The goal was simple: destroy the Soviet capital and the war before winter. By November, German officers could literally see the golden domes of the Kremlin through their high-powered binoculars. They were so confident that Hitler had already printed invasions to a victory banquet in the Hotel Metropole. Special granite blocks were brought along to build a massive victory monument on Red Square. The Wehrmacht seemed invisible. They had crushed France in 6 weeks and Poland in 1. They viewed the Soviet Union as a colossus with feet of clay, destined to crumble. But as they gazed at the city skyline, they were about to face a force they did not understand. The Crisis and the Panic. October 1941. The German tactic of Blitzkrieg seemed unstoppable. In a devastating maneuver, two massive pockets trapped over 600,000 Soviet soldiers near the Vyazma and Bryansk. The road to Moscow was essentially wide open. A terrifying gap of 500 kilometers appeared in the defense line. On October, the Great Panic gripped the capital. Ashes of burned documents floated in the air. The subway was mined with explosives ready to be destroyed. Government officials were fleeing east. But in this moment of total collapse, Stalin made a crucial decision. He stayed. His train was waiting at the station, but he refused to board. This signal stopped the house. Moscow turned into a fortress. Over half of a million civilians, mostly women and teenagers, went out into the cold rain to dig 700 kilometers of anti-tank trenches with their bare hands. They were preparing to die for every street. General Mud, Rasputitsa. Then the nature invaded, the autumn rains began. The Russians call it Rasputitsa, the season of bad roads without roads. This was a nightmare for modern machinery. German tanks, engineering mills, built for a paved highways of Europe, sank into the deep, sticky Russian mud. Supply trucks stalled, horses died from exhaustion trying to pull artillery. The mighty German logistics collapsed. The offensive they previously moved 40 kilometers a day was now dry and 3 kilometers a day. Shells, food, and winter clothing were stuck miles behind the front lines. By October 16th, the situation for the defenses was critical, but Hitler's army had lost its most valuable resource, time. The mud bought the Red Army precious weeks to regroup. The parade and the Siberian reinforcements. By November 7th, the enemy was just 20 kilometers away. The rumble of artillery could be heard in the city center. In this suicidal condition, Stalin ordered a military parade on Red Square to mark the revolution's anniversary. It seems insane. Luftwaffe bombers were minutes away, but the soldiers, much past the Kremlin, look at the leaders and marched straight from the square to the front line trenches. The world saw the message. Moscow still stands. Meanwhile, a master spy in Tokyo, Richard Zorge, sent a vital message: they change the war. Japan will not attack the USSR. This intelligence allowed George Zhukov to take a massive gamble. He pulled fresh 80 Siberian divisions from the Far East. These were not tired conscripts. They were 2 men equipment with the legendary T-43 tanks and warmer winter gear. They arrived in total radio silence. The Germans had no idea the hammer was about to fall. The frozen hell. Then came the cold, real Russian winters. The temperature didn't just drop, it plummeted to -30, then -40 degrees Celsius. The Wehrmacht was completely unprepared. Hitler had expected victory by September, so millions of winter coats were sitting in warehouse in Poland. German soldiers wrapped themselves in stolen women's shawls and stuffed newspapers into their boots to prevent frostbite. The machinery failed. Oil turned it into glue. To start a tank engine, crews had to light fires underneath the hull. Automatic weapons jammed. Meanwhile, the Soviets were in the element. The tank has wider tracks to glide over the snow. The weapons oil didn't freeze. The soldiers were violently felt boots and warm sheepskin coats, while the Germans were freezing to death in the foxholes. The Red Army was preparing to strike. The counter-strike. December 1941. The moment that changed history. German generals like Guderian were sending dispatch reports. Their troops were exhausted, freezing, and incapable of attacking. They believed the Red Army was equally broken. They were wrong. And down the Red Army launched a massive counter-offensive along the entire front. For the first time in World War II, the Wehrmacht didn't just stop, they ran. The invisible army was pushed back 100 to 250 kilometers. Retreating, the furious Germans used scorched earth tactics. They burned villages, destroying historic monasteries, and executed civilians. But in their panic, they left behind incredible troops. The Soviets captured over 11,000 trucks, hundreds of tanks, and thousands of guns. The field around Moscow were littered with the frozen skeletons of the fallen Blitzkrieg. The myth of General Frost. Later, to save their reputation, German generals would blame General Frost for their defeat. They claimed the snow stole their victory, but this was a lie. The code was the same for both sides. Soviet soldiers fought and died in the same freezing weather. The difference was not the temperature, it was moral and logistics. The Germans fought for ambition and conquest. The Russians fought for survival, for their homes, their families, and their existence. The invisible machine broke not because of their ice, but because of resistance Europe had never seen before. The Battle of Moscow was the largest battle in human history up to that point. Over 7 million people fought on both sides, more than at Stalingrad or Kursk. Germany lost over 500,000 experienced soldiers here. It was a blow to Third Reich never truly recovered from. The myth of the invisibility was shattered in the snow. Victory came at the terrible price. But exactly here, in the wide fields of 1941, the long, bloody march to Berlin began.